So we are dogging out the back, as I call it, or hollowing out the back of this piece of Willow for this golf thriller cello. And some quick notes. If you decide to take the plunge and use a Willow back, which I highly recommend for bass instruments, and the reason for this is you get these like really creamy trebles, and I think I've already philosophized on that a little bit. But another cool thing about Willow is that it's almost impossible to get this kind of like laser sound. I don't know if you love Baroque cello like I do, then you sort of develop a softer ear. I mean, am I able to say that correctly? Or is that the correct metaphor? But what I really hate about modern cello is not the cello itself. It's not the fault of the cellist. I mean, the cello, it's the fault of the cellist. Because a lot of modern cellists, they're like, and it's like they're sort of actually trying to choke the thing, and so what? Let me turn this down a little bit. What happens is that you get a combination of like really hard maple backs and this sort of penetrating laser cock kind of tone, like, and then you get a cellist who is kind of so full of themselves with their own ego, and they've forgotten that the musician is in service of the music, and we don't care what you look like, you know? We want to hear the music. Anyway, enough ranting. With Willow, it's almost impossible to get this terrible laser cock kind of sound, you know? Because it has a much lower frequency of response, and if you look at the if you look at, hold on a second, if you look at the grain lines, it's really difficult to see. Okay, here, you see there's a lot of wide growth here, so this tree had a great life. It was growing. This is the winter, this is the summer, so and that makes it very light. So advantage to Willow, no laser tone. You could, in theory, I don't know, make it go. I've never had that problem. So the other thing to remember is to go thick. You do not want to make a Willow back cello as you do not want to graduate and tune the same you would as a harder, denser hardwood, or you're going to get all kinds of crazy wolf tones. I mean, it's just going to go, you know. So when you're dogging out your back, you wanna stop with the gouge really early is my recommendation. It takes a bit longer, so I mean, look, I'm 7 right here, and as I go towards my beat in the middle, I'm 15. It's 15 right now, right? So that's going to take a long time with my playing to take it from 15, and in the end, I'll probably end up in the sound post area around 7. Because you got to remember too, when you have this wide grain, unless you use a patch, you got to figure that 20 years from now, some goon is going to come behind you and shove the post really deep, and it's going to crack, you know. So you want to go thick for the wolf tone to avoid wolves, and also to avoid cracks. And another thing about going thick is that you can get these really creamy trebles in a cello. It's just going to be like this dark, melancholic sound as opposed to, you know, look at me, you know. So, yeah, I would say I'm going to end up with, I mean, we'll see. You have to use your intuition, but I'll probably end up with like 7. And as always, I'm tuning this way and I'm tuning this way. So the next stage is just going to get this all flat, you know, with the flat plate, right? Just so I can sort of take measurements, you know, without the needle jumping all over the place. So yeah, so I'll be something like, I thought we have 7, then I'll be like 6, around here will be 5, 4, and then around here I'll be, we'll see, how maybe 3 or something, you know, but in all kinds of variations in 3.2, 3.1, 4.7, you know, it's not going to be even because I want it to be, you know, what else? Oh, okay. So the great luthier Jose Catarria was here yesterday, and this was a free piece of willow that a friend of mine in the country gave me because she had a tree that she was cutting down, and we're noticing that it's fantastic willow. It's much more dense and hard. When I harvested it, it was pink like roast beef, you know. And I'm like, and we're cutting with the chainsaw, and water is just dripping, like literally dripping out of the saw. You know, it was gasoline operated. If it was an electric saw, I'd be like, stop, you know. But yeah, so it was really wet. I was, wow, this is never gonna work. Like, you know, it's gonna take forever to dry, and it's gonna sound like a dog's ass, you know. But this has matured into this like super dense. It's almost like it reminds me of crazy poplar. You know this phrase of this Italian poplar that's sort of like highly figured and impossible to work with. I did one back with it. I will never do it again. So when you're choosing your willow, you want the darkest sort of brown pink that you can get. And you'll notice like, oh, this is actually heavy like a piece of maple. So I got to send this video to my friend in the country and tell her don't burn it. She has a wood stove, and she's like, oh yeah, I burned most of it, but I saved you 6 backs. I'm like, no, don't burn it. You know, but hey, you got, if it's cold outside, you're gonna burn wood, you know. Just burn something else, please. Yeah, so that's it. Go thick, and yeah. So you see this like white stripe? It has nothing to do with Jack White. You know what? I hate Jack White. You know, I'm sorry if you disagree. The white stripes. Just go home, you hipster. Anyway, you have this white stripe. If that was like all the way through this back, I would probably try to avoid it because the whiter the willow is the more softer part. But this is gonna be fine. This back is gonna rock and roll. So, but it has a long way to go. Okay, so that's it. Just a brief discussion about willow and why we love it.